Are you traveling to the States anytime soon?
Not ever. I wouldn't go over the border again.
Canada's our neighbor, and you don't treat neighbors that way. And all of us are really upset about that.
What if I told you that right now, as we speak, entire American towns are dying? Not because of natural disasters, not because of economic crashes, not even because of factory closures, but because their customers simply decided to stop showing up? We're talking about places where gas stations are shutting down, Walmart stores are closing for good, and families are losing their homes. All because people from another country quietly chose to shop somewhere else. This isn't fiction. This is happening right now across the northern border, and the numbers are absolutely shocking. In just the first quarter of 2025, cross-border shopping from Canada dropped by over 75% in some areas. We're talking nearly 500,000 fewer Canadian shoppers every single month. Towns that thrived for decades on Canadian dollars are now watching their main streets turn into ghost zones. But here's the terrifying part. This wasn't caused by any official boycott, no government ban, no dramatic protest. It was something far more powerful and far more permanent. The perfect storm that started it all. Before we dive into the towns themselves, you need to understand what started this unprecedented shopping exodus. It began with political rhetoric. Words many dismissed as harmless jokes, but those words became economic ammunition. And they're now destroying American communities. When certain political figures began floating the idea of making Canada the 51st state of America, most people laughed it off as typical political theater. But Canadians weren't laughing. Then came the threats, 25% to 50% tariffs on Canadian goods. And suddenly, something unexpected happened. A surge of Canadian nationalism, not through protests, not through speeches, but through the most powerful weapon a consumer has, their wallet. The Buy Canadian First movement exploded across social media. Millions of Canadians proudly shared receipts from local stores, showcased domestic alternatives, and declared their independence from American shopping trips. Then came counter tariffs. Canada hit back with a 25% tariff on American goods. Cross-border shopping went from weekend tradition to expensive hassle. And just like that, the price advantage that once lured millions of Canadians south vanished. The result? A quiet, yet devastating economic shift. These towns weren't just losing sales, they were watching entire business models collapse in real time. Picture this. You wake up one morning and realize half your customers are gone. Not because they moved, not because they died, but because they've decided you're no longer worth visiting. That's exactly what happened in Calais, Maine. For years, residents of St. Stephen, New Brunswick treated Calais like their personal shopping kitchen. Groceries, prescriptions, gas, everyday items, all cheaper just across the bridge. Then came 2025, and in just the first quarter, vehicle crossings dropped by more than 64%. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, that's not a decline, that's a free fall. Grocery stores once prepared for weekend rushes now face empty aisles and unsold stock. Gas stations, once buzzing, sit completely idle. It gets worse. Family restaurants lost their regulars overnight. Pharmacies that relied on Canadian customers, gone. Shops that sold electronics, clothes, essentials, closing, one by one. Meanwhile, across the bridge, St. Stephen is booming. New supermarkets, expanded services, a systematic replacement of every reason Canadians once crossed. Today, Calais feels like a ghost town. The roads, the buildings, the border facility, they're all still there, but the life is gone. What happens when big retail gives up on your town? MASSENA, New York found out the hard way. This town wasn't just losing mom and pop shops, it was losing the giants. Walmart, Target. Canadians from Cornwall, Ontario used to flock here for savings, for variety, for American brands. Then in early 2025, Canadian traffic dropped by over 70%. Walmart shut down. Target followed, leaving behind empty buildings and hundreds unemployed. Suddenly, people in MASSENA had no nearby place to buy groceries, clothing, or even household goods. What happens when big retail gives up on your town? MASSENA, New York found out the hard way. This town wasn't just losing mom and pop shops, it was losing the giants. Walmart, Target. Canadians from Cornwall, Ontario used to flock here for savings, for variety, for American brands. Then in early 2025, Canadian traffic dropped by over 70%. Walmart shut down. Some towns don't just sit near the border, they are the border. Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan and Ontario. Two cities, one name, one shared life. For decades, they weren't just neighbors, they were twins. Canadians came over the international bridge daily for shopping, for errands, for lunch at local diners. It wasn't tourism, it was routine. But in 2025, that routine broke. According to the U.S. Bureau of Transportation Statistics, traffic across the bridge dropped by 57% in just 3 months. These weren't casual visitors, they were daily customers. People who knew the waitstaff by name, who had their usual at local restaurants, who kept Ashman Avenue alive. Suddenly, they were gone. Small electronic shops, now open only a few days a week. Restaurants like Penny's Kitchen, cutting hours, cutting staff, just trying to hang on. The Family Fare supermarket, slashing inventory, stopping bulk orders. Because the Canadians who made it worthwhile walked away. Across the bridge in Ontario, business is booming. More stores, longer hours. Canadians realized, why cross when we have it all right here? But on the Michigan side, people are left behind. It's not just about lost revenue, it's about lost identity. Sault Ste. Marie once saw itself as half of a whole. Now it feels like a broken piece. The bridge still stands, but the bond is fading. Blaine wasn't just a border town. It was a package powerhouse. For years, Canadians came from Vancouver and Surrey to pick up their Amazon orders, fill up gas, grab groceries, and then head home. Blaine didn't need a tourist attraction. It had the golden goose, Canadian online shoppers. But then, in 2025, vehicle crossings dropped by over 75%. Let that sink in. 75%. The Chicago Tribune reported the numbers, but locals saw the truth on the ground. 3 out of 5 gas stations closed. 20 package pickup points gone. Why? Because Canadian retailers got smart. Amazon expanded in Canada. Shipping got faster, cheaper. And Canadians started asking, why are we driving to Blaine at all? TikTok filled with receipts from London drugs. Instagram flooded with Buy Canadian hashtags. The narrative changed, and so did the behavior. And Blaine was left holding an empty box. The ATMs still glow at night, but no one stops. The gas pumps still stand, but they're dry and silent. Blaine discovered something painful. Convenience is not loyalty. And when convenience disappears, so do your customers. Point Roberts is one of the strangest places in America. It's U.S. soil, but you can't get there from the U.S., not without driving through Canada. For decades, this bizarre geography seemed like a quaint advantage. People loved the peace, the affordability, the short hop to Vancouver for essentials, groceries, healthcare, fuel, all from Canada. But then, it all fell apart. In 2025, as tensions rose, Canada didn't cut off Point Roberts. They just stopped prioritizing it. No official policy, no press release, just a silent shift. That left this town completely exposed. Everything here depends on a country that's not its own. Gas, delivered when possible. Only 3 days a week. Post office, reduced hours, reduced staff, families. Hiring private boats to bring groceries from the U.S. mainland. Why? Because they can't count on either country anymore. There's no high school, no hospital, No infrastructure that can stand alone. Property values plummeting. People want out, but no one wants in. Point Roberts is now a place of involuntary isolation, not a retirement haven, not a quiet escape. A cautionary tale of what happens when your entire way of life depends on a neighbor who's no longer interested. The warning we can't ignore. These 5 towns aren't just victims of bad luck. They're the first to fall in a much larger story. A story about what happens when your economy depends on someone else's decision. When your customers live in another country. When your revenue relies on a border staying open. When your stores are filled for reasons you don't control. You're living on borrowed time. These towns believed they were safe. They believed in their location, their relationships, their routine. But the truth is chilling. Nothing is permanent. Not customers, not commerce, not convenience. And in a world this connected, your community's fate could be changed by people you'll never meet, in places you'll never visit, for reasons you'll never understand. These 5 towns are the canary in the coal mine. The question is, will the rest of us learn before it's too late? If this story opened your eyes, hit like, tap subscribe, and ring the bell. Because what's coming next could change everything.